Gametes and fertilization. Fertilization is the fusion of the nuclei from a male gamete, sperm cell, and a female gamete, egg cell. It occurs in the oviducts. Gametes have adaptations to increase the chances of fertilization and successful development of an embryo. Comparing sperm and egg cells. Adaptations of gametes. Comparison of male and female gametes. Did this video help you? Yes. No. Pregnancy. Growth and development of the fetus. After fertilization in the oviduct, the zygote travels towards the uterus. This takes about 3 days, during which time the zygote will divide several times to form a ball of cells known as an embryo. In the uterus, the embryo embeds itself in the thick lining, implantation, and continues to grow and develop. The gestation period for humans is 9 months. Major development of organs takes place within the first 12 weeks, during which time the embryo gets nutrients from the mother by diffusion through the uterus lining. After this point, the organs are all in place, the placenta has formed, and the embryo is now called a fetus. The remaining gestation time is used by the fetus to grow bigger in size. The fetus in the uterus. The fetus is surrounded by an amniotic sac which contains amniotic fluid made from the mother's blood plasma. This protects the fetus during development by cushioning it from bumps to the mother's abdomen. The umbilical cord joins the fetus's blood supply to the placenta for exchange of nutrients and removal of waste products. The placenta and umbilical cord, extended. During the gestation period, the fetus develops and grows by gaining the glucose, amino acids, fats, water, and oxygen it needs from the mother's blood. The bloods run opposite each other, never mixing, in the placenta. The fetus's blood connects to and from the placenta by the umbilical cord. The mother's blood also absorbs the waste from the fetus's blood in the placenta. Substances like carbon dioxide and urea are removed from the fetus's blood so that they do not build up to dangerous levels. Movement of all molecules across the placenta occurs by diffusion due to difference in concentration gradients. The placenta is adapted for this diffusion by having a large surface area and a thin wall for efficient diffusion. The placenta acts as a barrier to prevent toxins and pathogens getting into the fetus's blood. Not all toxin molecules or pathogenic organisms, such as viruses, e.g. rubella, are stopped from passing through the placenta. This usually depends on the size of the molecule. This is why pregnant women are advised not to smoke during pregnancy, as molecules like nicotine can pass across the placenta. After the baby has been born, the umbilical cord is cut. This does not hurt as there are no nerves in it, just 2 blood vessels. It is tied off to prevent bleeding and shrivels up and falls off after a few days, leaving the belly button behind. The placenta detaches from the uterus wall shortly after birth and is pushed out due to contractions in the muscular wall of the uterus, known as the afterbirth. The placenta. Exam tip. It is worth learning at least 2 specific substances that move in either direction across the placenta. This is a common exam question, and non-specific answers such as waste products and nutrients will not get any marks. Secondary sexual characteristics. Primary sexual characteristics are present during development in the uterus and are the differences in reproductive organs, etc., between males and females. Secondary sexual characteristics are the changes that occur during puberty as children become adolescents. They are controlled by the release of hormones, estrogen in girls and testosterone in boys. Human secondary sexual characteristics. Female secondary sexual characteristics. Male secondary sexual characteristics. Some changes occur to both boys and girls, including growth of sexual organs and growth of body hair. Emotional changes also occur due to the increased levels of hormones in the body. These include more interest in sex and increased mood swings. Did this video help you? Yes. No. The menstrual cycle starts in early adolescence in girls, around age 12, and is controlled by hormones. The average menstrual cycle is 28 days long. Ovulation, the release of an egg, occurs about halfway through the cycle, day 14, and the egg then travels down the oviduct to the uterus. Failure to fertilize the egg causes menstruation, commonly called a period, to occur. This is caused by the breakdown of the thickened lining of the uterus. Menstruation lasts around 5 to 7 days and signals the beginning of the next cycle. After menstruation finishes, the lining of the uterus starts to thicken again in preparation for possible implantation in the next cycle. Changes in the lining of the uterus during the menstrual cycle. Did this video help you? Yes. No. Hormones of the menstrual cycle, extended. The menstrual cycle is controlled by hormones released from the ovary and the pituitary gland in the brain. The roles of FSH and LH. Changes in the levels of the pituitary hormones FSH and LH in the blood during the menstrual cycle. FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, is released by the pituitary gland and causes an egg to start maturing in the ovary. It also stimulates the ovaries to start releasing estrogen. The pituitary gland is stimulated to release luteinizing hormone LH when estrogen levels have reached their peak. LH causes ovulation to occur and also stimulates the ovary to produce progesterone. The roles of estrogen and progesterone changes in the levels of estrogen and progesterone in the blood during the menstrual cycle. Estrogen levels rise from day 1 to peak just before day 14. This causes the uterine wall to start thickening and the egg to mature. The peak in estrogen occurs just before the egg is released. Progesterone stays low from day 1 to 14 and starts to rise once ovulation has occurred. The increasing levels cause the uterine lining to thicken further. A fall in progesterone levels causes the uterine lining to break down. Menstruation period. Interaction between all four of the menstrual cycle hormones. The pituitary gland produces FSH, which stimulates the development of a follicle in the ovary. An egg develops inside the follicle and the follicle produces the hormone estrogen. Estrogen causes growth and repair of the lining of the uterus wall and inhibits production of FSH. When estrogen rises to a high enough level, it stimulates the release of LH from the pituitary gland, which causes ovulation, usually around day 14 of the cycle. The follicle becomes the corpus luteum and starts producing progesterone. Progesterone maintains the uterus lining, the thickness of the uterus wall. If the ovum is not fertilized, the corpus luteum breaks down and progesterone levels drop. This causes menstruation, where the uterus lining breaks down and is removed through the vagina, commonly known as having a period. If pregnancy does occur, the corpus luteum continues to produce progesterone, preventing the uterus lining from breaking down and aborting the pregnancy. It does this until the placenta has developed, at which point it starts secreting progesterone and continues to do so throughout the pregnancy. Where hormones involved in the menstrual cycle are made an act. STIs and HIV/AIDS. Unprotected sexual intercourse can lead to the transfer of pathogens via exchange of body fluids. Infections passed on in this way are known as sexually transmitted infections, STIs. An example of an STI is HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, the virus that usually leads to the development of acquired immunodeficiency disease, AIDS. HIV can also be spread via sharing needles with an infected person, blood transfusions with infected blood, and from mother to fetus through the placenta and mother to baby via breastfeeding. How HIV affects the immune system. Immediately after infection, people often suffer mild flu-like symptoms. These symptoms pass, and for a period of time infected people might not know they are infected. The virus infects a certain type of lymphocyte of the body's immune system. Normally, lymphocytes seek out and destroy pathogens that enter the body, producing antibodies that attach to pathogens, enhancing phagocytic activity. However, HIV avoids being recognized and destroyed by lymphocytes by repeatedly changing its protein coat. It then infects a certain type of lymphocyte and uses the cell's machinery to multiply. This reduces the number of lymphocytes of the immune system, and also the number of antibodies that can be made. This decreases the body's ability to fight off infections, eventually leading to AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency. How HIV affects lymphocytes. Controlling the spread of STIs. The spread of STIs such as HIV are best controlled by limiting the number of sexual partners an individual has, not having unprotected sex, but making sure to always use a condom, getting tested if unprotected sex or sex with multiple partners has occurred, raising awareness by education programs.